for attorneys in this group.
Thanks a lot. And thanks, George Rupert, for asking me to come here. And thanks to every one of you that cares and gives a damn enough to do something. It is wonderful to see a sold-out place, all these people here trying to do something. I want to tell you guys, you're not alone. Mark Koernke, who is from Michigan, he's made the tape America in Peril. If you haven't seen it, you've got to see it. You've got to see it now. Mark Koernke is who got me started about 2.5 years ago because I thought he was a fraud. And I decided to check out everything he said on his tape, and I was able to find out 99% of it on my own, and it's all true. And what he's talking about, and what I'm talking about, and now what a lot of people around the country are talking about, is what we saw in Waco is what they're going to do to all of us.
That's right. Yeah.
And I mean that sincerely. The plans are in place. Our country is being divided up into regions. There are multi-jurisdictional task force police that are supposed to police all of us. Clinton wants 300,000 combat-armed trained police. They're releasing people from the military to fill those jobs. The recommendations from ATF report and the Department of Justice. Who is this?
Did you need one from the military?
I need what from the military?
You need a military personnel.
Go ahead. Continue.
The ATF report and the Department of Justice report both recommended that all of the federal police be trained by Delta Force. Delta Force is CIA and Special Forces. Delta Force was in Waco and providing much of what we saw and what you're going to see on this tape. What's on in Waco, the big lie, was all I had in June. And I thought that was enough, that America needed to see it immediately. Immediately. When I put the tape out, the night I finished it, I sent it to ABC, CBS, NBC, and CNN. That night, by Federal Express. None of them would show it. They all have the same film footage. I stole the footage. I have invited them to sue me for it. Because they need, if they did, they'd have to produce the whole thing, all of the footage. They have to produce that in court to prove it's theirs, and I want them to produce it. I want all of America to see all the footage. We've been able to get it from most of the stations, not directly from the stations, but from people that are heroes that have put up with a lot. They taped it on their satellites, off their satellites. They taped it on their televisions, and they sent it to us so we can look at it, and we've looked at it hour after hour after hour after hour. And we have found some of the most brutal and barbaric treatment of human beings ever seen on the face of this earth, and it all happened at Waco. And it wasn't Branch Davidians doing it. It was our government doing it. And they did it right in front of our eyes. They did it with the full cooperation of the major broadcast networks. Any of you that have ever heard about Randy Weaver already know what a news blackout means. But if you don't know about Randy Weaver, you're an example of what a news blackout means. Everything that happened in Idaho happened in Waco, but most of the country never even heard about Idaho. That had already occurred in August to Randy Weaver. He was surrounded by tanks. They killed his son. When they killed his son, they didn't tell anybody, not even the other police agencies, and they covered it up. And they brought tanks in. They tried to firebomb his house. They shot his wife while she was holding a 10-month-old baby in her arms, and he had never done anything. He never fired a shot. And we didn't hear about it anywhere else in the country. I heard about it and was trying to get the news to do something. I got Randy Weaver's diary. Now, I'm an attorney. I've had a few high-profile cases. I've been on ABC World News, things like that, and I don't usually have any trouble getting press. I can pick up the phone and say, hey, I got a hot one. And they'll be there right then, instantly, with no more verification. I couldn't get the media to touch Randy Weaver. And when I got involved in Waco, the first thing I did was to go down to try to file a petition to demand that the FBI do what the law required it to do. And that was to allow these people to have an attorney. Now, the people, my detractors have said I did that so I could be the attorney. I didn't want to be the attorney. It would cost me a fortune to be an attorney in Texas when I lived in Indiana. But I didn't see anybody else doing it. And I got down there and discovered that 6 attorneys had filed petitions, but not one of them had cited the first law in support of their petitions. It was very suspicious. And the judge had used a boilerplate order to deny all of them, and in that order he had already called the Branch Davidians criminals. And he wouldn't give us a hearing. His clerk initially wouldn't take the paperwork until I told him I was going to put it down his throat. They don't have a right to refuse paperwork. Since we are here with Justice Pro Se, I'm sure there's a lot of you that do litigation on your own. No clerk has the right to refuse what you want to file. They have to file a menu if you give it to them. So don't take that for an answer, ever. But we finally did get a ruling, and the judge used the same order that he used on the first 7 petitions. And then that weekend, CNN used fake footage to show me being taken off in a paddy wagon and arrested for false credentials. I was never in a paddy wagon in my life. Bob Ricks, the spokesman for the FBI, who was giving out all the so-called news each day at 10:30 to the chosen few of the press who were allowed in, said that I had been arrested for false credentials. I knew right then that we were hearing lies because they went to the trouble to make up a big lie about me. Why? Because I was the only outsider. I was the only outside attorney. I was the only loose cannon. When you see your media making fun of someone, ridiculing them, demonizing them, labeling them, sit up and pay attention. Something is going on. The media is supposed to report the news in an unbiased fashion and report both sides. They're not doing it. Anyway, let's play. For anybody that's already seen it, please bear with us. This is Waco the Big Line, which is the first tape. I've made another tape called Forgive Us, We Didn't Know. That tape is intended more for people not like people here in this audience, but the hardcore, hard-hearted that don't get it. So if you get that tape, please share it with other people that say, oh, those Branch Davidians got what they deserved. Share it with the media that won't show the truth. Share it with the people that don't get it, because we don't have a lot of time left. They need to get it soon. They need to understand soon. Are you going to show both? You think that'll get the media?
But I think every pastor and every church should get a copy of trying to ban guns.
I do apologize for the film quality, but realized we were getting bootleg copies of bootleg copies at the time. And there are a couple of factual errors in it. The bunker is burning at, we have now got a timeline, and it was burning at 20 to 9, and 10 to 9 is when they collapsed everything in on everybody. I didn't know it then, but that turned out to be one of the most important things that we put on tape, and it literally made people in the government wet their pants and send helicopters to my house and things. But what that captured and what we caught, and in the last scene where they're taking a body out, was proof that the kids were in the bunker. That's why they called that well house, that cement building, that was still standing. They started calling it a bunker in the media to confuse us all. That's not a bunker. It was a walk-in meat cooler. And they put a lot of the dead children in there from the first day of the raid. But the people that were dead were found all over, but a lot of them were in the underground bunker outside. And the kids were killed when the concrete crushed them in because the tanks ran over them. The coroner came on Maury Povich's show and confirmed that. It was Rodney Crowe, who I guess finally got sick of hearing some of the lies and said, look, I'm tired of this, because the media had said that the coroner's report that said the children died from blunt trauma, that the Branch Davidians had beaten their children to death. I mean, think about that a minute. I hate to get off the train of thought, but just think how stupid that is. They've already claimed that they set their own fire, they're trying to burn their own place down. In the middle of a fire, they're going to stop and beat their child to death. But nonetheless, that's what the media claimed. And Rodney Crowe on Maury Povich said, no, they died from blunt trauma when the concrete crushed them. The only place concrete collapsed was in the underground tunnel, the place that was smoking and was where the tanks were all morning. So they did go there. They did try to seek safety. Now, I've had a lot of people ask me, these people had 51 days to come out. Why didn't they just come out and surrender? What we were not told was they were told if they came out, they would be shot. Now, the morning of and that's confirmed in the Department of Justice final report, by the way. Almost everything you just saw in that tape was confirmed in the final report of the Justice Department. Except they don't admit the flame-throwing tank yet. They did have their expert analyze this footage. In fact, they had Fort Harrison analyze it too, and then they sent it to University of Maryland when Fort Harrison wouldn't lie for them. And University of Maryland wouldn't lie for them either. I will tell you this, every bit of that footage is exactly like we got it, unless I freeze framed it, which I told you, you can hear. I did not narrate that tape, in case you cannot tell by my nasty voice. The lady that did that's name is Lynn Perkins. But in the tape, some of the scenes there are second, third, and fourth generation. We've gotten better quality now. In fact, we've got a few more seconds of different scenes that are very important, particularly those scenes of the ATF on the first day. If you didn't notice it in the Forgive Us, We Didn't Know tape, there's one scene of the ATF when the music's playing, and it's at the front door. No one in America has ever seen that picture before. Go back and look at it if you get a copy to take home. That's the front door when ATF arrived. There's a little kid out front. There's nobody in those windows shooting at ATF. And the front door's cracked open, just like David Koresh said. We've got film footage that'll be in Waco too. I hate to make this sound like Jaws or something, but it is, yes, in a lot of ways it is. But I didn't intend to be hawking tapes. I apologize to America for hawking tapes. I really believed.
You did good, Linda.
Well, thank you.
Thank you.
I appreciate that.
That's right.
Well, I don't want to be a tape vendor. I mean, I'm an attorney. And I couldn't get it out any other way. But so many people took our first tape and showed it to so many more people and so many more people, and it's still being shown around the country. It's a movement unto itself.
Linda.
If that'd be all right. I really have a hard time answering questions and then trying to remember things that I wanted to mention. I don't mean to be rude, but I'm very absent-minded.
You have the right to be. Linda.
What?
I'm a subscriber to the internet, and I see your postings on the internet all the time. And one of the things that you talked about was you said that you had seen papers that said that we were possibly going to be looking at martial law in this country sometime soon, maybe even the next couple of years.
I think we're looking at martial law before 95 without question.
Next couple months, maybe.
Mark from Michigan, Mark Koernke is here. His opinion is sooner than that. I don't give them quite that much credit, just simply because what I've run into is they're very disorganized, they're easily intimidated, and they're pretty stupid. And I can tell you this, if it makes you feel any better, they back down real easily if they're confronted. If the Branch Davidians really had shot back at these guys, they weren't shooting. What we do know now that I didn't know in June, and that's why I am making another tape, is the helicopters that were sent in fired first. They fired down on the roof and killed women and children in the second story. The ATF then arrived and began shooting into the front door while they sent another team of agents that you saw climbing up the ladder. The extra footage that we've gotten, it's just an extra second or two here or there, but and it's a better soundtrack. You can plainly hear the ATF using machine guns out there. And it is ATF because their own guys are saying, too much live fire, back it down.
Whose helicopters are they?
Well, I don't know. I believe that the black ones that were there were used by hostage rescue team from the FBI. But we've done enough investigation at this point to determine that there was definitely military involvement here. In Waco 2, you're going to see some scenes where there's guys, all the guys getting out of the tanks are wearing military uniforms. Now, this is in direct contradiction of the answers to congressmen. I've had a number of congressmen. Now, this should give you an idea of how bad things are. Our own congressmen will not call me on the phone. They send me stuff by courier and pick it up by courier because they don't want to talk to me on the phone. And my phone is tapped, and we found 7 bugs in the office.
How do we organize a militia?
In your own neighborhoods, my friend.
To organize a militia,
State by state.
state by state, group by group, city by city, you do not want a national militia.
Neighbors, friends, and family.
You need people that you know and that you can trust. Because there are no patriot groups in America. None. There are none. Any group that claims to be a patriot group is infiltrated. They're lying to you. Do not believe it. There is no such thing as a patriot group. Except you and your friends and your neighbors and people that have the same things at stake that you do. People you can trust. And you can network with other groups and other neighbors and neighborhoods, and certainly do that. But don't expose everybody. Use some sense. They've got us out-teched. They've got more technology than we do. But they don't have what we have, and that is determination to do what is right. Anecdote. When I first started this stuff, I organized a militia, the unorganized militia of the United States, and I was roundly ridiculed, if covered at all, by the media, who wanted to find out what a militia was. And then once they did, they decided, of course, to portray us as a bunch of crazy gun nuts. But nonetheless, when I organized the militia to go down to Waco, simply as a demonstration that yes, there are Americans out there, yes, we do have guns, no, we're not crazy, and yes, we can shoot. I had 5,000 calls in 4 days. Our phone lines were literally burnt up. And most of the people calling said they would go if they could shoot. And at that time, I was being advised by a lot of different people, oh, don't do it, you're playing into the hands of the New World Order. They want us to have a revolution. They want us to have civil war. you're going to cause it, you're a traitor, you're a this, you're a that. I said, fine, we'll have a peaceful demonstration with arms, just so they'll know we're out here. And we did that, but we didn't have very many people. In fact, we only had about 100 people show up. But we did have a guy come with a plane, a guy come with a Jeep, a guy come with a tank that he towed. And I got phone calls from people that have tanks. Our guys have tanks. I'm very encouraged by this. And this crowd here, somebody keeps telling me we should have gotten such and such a hall. Now, I had no control over any of this. I'm point and shoot people. I just come here. But I am seeing crowds bigger than this everywhere we go. Now, you're not going to hear about it in the media because they're going to try to do what they've always done, and that's to give the impression that, of course, nothing's going on. You must be nuts. You're wrong. To make us lose faith, to make us be dispirited, to fracture us up into small groups, to make us fight against each other. Now, I see a lot of different races here tonight. I don't see a whole lot of black people, but realize when you see the media stirring up racial dissension, when they're talking about there's going to be some sort of a racial fight, that is an agenda. They want a racial fight.
That's right.
We have a common enemy, and it's not us.
Amen.
In the Waco information that's available does help wake people up. Now, I am still bound and determined to put these guys on trial for murder. I want to see Bill Clinton be the first president. Special prosecutor. I promise you. I'll do it for free. Twice. But I love, I was considered for Attorney General probably about 14 seconds, but my name actually was in the hat. Picture that little time warp, if you will, had I been Attorney General when Waco occurred. Somebody said that to me at my office the other night, how different things would be. Right now, we would be looking at the first president on trial for murder in the history of this country. We would be looking at a CIA that's facing extinction. We would be looking at an ATF and FBI facing extinction. We would definitely be looking at an IRS that's facing extinction. The Attorney General has the right to give opinions on the law and what should be prosecuted and what shouldn't be. The Attorney General's opinion would be that the 16th Amendment was never ratified. NAFTA was never ratified. We have a lot of illegal laws in this country. If I could get back to Waco for just a minute, though, when people ask you questions, I'd like everybody in this audience to be informed and be able to answer the questions, because you're going to hear the same things I've heard. Oh, she faked that. Oh, she just put it the way she wanted you to see it. Turn the sound off. Now, and by the way, there is a piece of sound missing in this tape. I hope it's not missing in the other tapes. That's when David is preaching, and that is in the other tapes. Yes, they did. I have the autopsies. In fact, I have them with me tonight because I was going to study them in my room. But we're in the process of working on Waco, too. They did actually 2 autopsies on the ATF agents, and the first one was hidden. It's been sealed, been taken away, it's gone, I can't get it. I got the second set, and it's very self-serving, but it's also quite revealing. They do not give you the caliber of the bullets except for in one case, and they claim it's a .762. I maintain it's a .308. And the reason I maintain it's a .308 is, first of all, they're about the same size. Second of all, This particular man got his wound right here in the top of his head. It's hard to get shot there, except by a helicopter. And I did find the helicopter that was there that day, and I have a picture of that helicopter while it's there, parked on the ground. It's got a .308 machine gun mounted in it. Now, these congressmen that have written me and sent questions to me, they've sent me questions to give back to them, questions to ask. What should we ask? And I wrote them 60-something questions that was just a starter kit. And they got the responses back from Lloyd Benson. And I don't hear any boos. Lloyd Benson is one of the real bad guys. I mean, we should be hearing boos, hisses, and shotgun fire on that one. Lloyd Benson. Shalishkavili, the Joint Chiefs of Staff.
Communist!
Edward Free, the new head of the FBI, and John McGaugh, the new head of the ATF. All of them have maintained that there was no military involvement in Waco. Yes.
It was from the
It's SAS, which is Special Air Services. That's one of the.
SAS. Where did that plane come from? Did it come from England? Was it in Canada?
It came from England.
Sounds like a foreign invasion.
Why wasn't that plane shot down when it invaded U.S. airspace?
That was my question.
After war! That was one of the biggest crimes.
No, this gets worse.
If that plane was over U.S. airspace, that bird should have went down. Number one. Number two, according to the United States Signal Service Intelligence Directive 17, which is put out by the National Security Agency, no foreign power may engage in any surveillance activities of this country.
Good point. Great
without
point.
being an active war.
Well, we were invaded. That's no question about that. There were also 2 British planes on the airstrips. I've got so much more than what's in these tapes. I wish I could get it all out. It would take probably about 50 hours to put just even a synopsis of what we have available. In terms of what book, I got time to do a book.
Modified tanks.
Okay, we're going to need to do this some kind of orderly fashion because I know everybody's got questions. You want to just go to questions and answers and I can just answer questions? Okay. Lady down here in the yellow.
Do you know of a next Waco making right now?
Well, from the slant of the media, the latest question was, is there another Waco in the making right now? The final ATF report, the final Department of Justice reports and recommendations all refer to CUT in Montana, the Pagisic Indian Reservation in Connecticut, and one other group that I can't remember. And that seems to be that they're giving the impression that those are targets. And I saw a Judy Whitney show the other night, which, by the way, was really pretty good, which was all about CUT. They were calling Claire Prophet a cult leader, doing the same thing they did with David Koresh, cult this, cult that, fortified compound this, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And it would seem that CUT could be a target, but the problem is the Pagisic Indian Reservation isn't an Indian reservation. And right after Waco, at least one guy that I know is a government agent went straight there before the ATF reports came out. He went there and he was inviting people to come up and defend these Indians with their guns. Please come and surround this place and help us fight off these bad police. And it was a hoax. The Pagisic Indian Reservation was 2 guys that had declared their property an Indian reservation and decided to sell cigarettes off of it without paying the state tax. And the state police had sent them, or they had been sent a lot of notices about it, and then the state police surrounded them to collect the tax. Now, that legitimately is a function of the state. The state was in a legitimate posture in that case. They had actually acted correctly. And these guys weren't Indians. Now, that's what makes me wonder if we're not being set up here on them whipping up a fake frenzy, whipping up fake things to stage a revolution. Now, to the credit of many Americans. I mean, you've heard the tone of everyone in here tonight. It's like that everywhere I go. Everywhere I go. Cut to the chase. When do we talk about the guns and the militia? That's the way it is everywhere. Now, wait, but even with that tenor, with everyone being of one mind on this thing, we're not out in the streets rioting. We're doing this very effectively, quietly, in an organized fashion. And they can't deal with it. It is freaking them out. And it's working.
Is there any truth to an executive order being signed by President Clinton not letting any guns or ammunition into the United States border just prior to the new year? It's supposed to be recorded in the...
There was an executive order this summer where he banned the importation of a lot of different rifles and ammunition, yes. We have a copy of that. If you have a computer, we have a computer network. And I put a lot of my research files, and we have a subscription to the Combined Federal Register on CD-ROM. And whenever anything of any importance comes up like that, we immediately make a copy available. And all you have to do is, it's free. You just can call with a computer and get a copy of it. And that's the fastest way I know of. I would urge everyone in here to please get a computer and a packet radio to go with it, because when they take the phone lines down, the most secure form of communications we can have is encrypted communications by modem. The feds are absolutely spastic about an encryption program called PGP. The guy that wrote it didn't give them a back door. And won't give them a back door. And all we have to do, even if he now decides to give them a back door, it'll be a back door to the current version or later. We just use the earlier versions, that's all. Piece of cake.
What's the number? What's your number?
The number for the BBS is 317-881-2743. But hold off for a week, because we're changing to what's called a multi-node system, where we're going to have between 5 and 10 lines. And we're also going to pay system operators to put up nodes around the country. We have about 40 nodes right now. We were infiltrated by feds, though, and I got real sick of it because they kept attacking me, and I got nastier and nastier about it. And I decided, I don't want to live like that. It just really makes me mad. So I'm going to run my network my way. We're going to, if we get feds in the Echo again, it's called an Echo. If you're not familiar with the computer lingo. And that just simply means a network of computers that have been set up around the country to automatically exchange mail and information. If we get anyone that even seems to be acting like a Fed, I don't care if they're really a Fed, if they act like a Fed, walk like a Fed, talk like a Fed, smell like a Fed, they're out of here. And that's a condition, that is the condition of becoming a node that will host our network. Any one of you that are sysops, okay?
What's that number again?
317-881-2743. The guy in the back of the brown shirt.
Some information about Michigan, where you guys live. There's approximately 14,004 United Nations troops in the state right now. 1,000 of them stationed in Selfridge. They're called FINCEN, F-I-N-C-E-N. Their helicopters are being kept in underground bunkers. They used to house the KC-135 hangars in Selfridge. Their hangars are guarded. No United States military personnel are allowed in those hangars unless they're assigned to the United Nations military that are here. From what I understand, the helicopter was brought into Selfridge on a flatbed trailer with holes in it, 30 caliber holes. Nobody can explain why this helicopter.
Oh, that's easy. People are getting sick of seeing them and they're shooting them down. And let me tell you about that. These black helicopters, okay, Mark talks pretty eloquently on this subject, are part of a multi-jurisdictional task force. That multi-jurisdictional task force was created with a public law that was tacked onto the end of the crime bill in 1990. Now, I personally, Mark could probably, I'm going to ask Mark if he'll come up in a minute and fill in some of these details, but I personally haven't been able to find a tie between the helicopters and FinCEN, except that FinCEN operates directly under the Treasury Department. I did find FinCEN, and it moved to Vienna, Virginia, or to Woodridge, Virginia. And it has a new director named Gardner as of the end of December. The former executive director was Andy Flodine. And I spoke with Andy Flodine directly and asked him just exactly what is FinCEN, what do you do, et cetera, et cetera. It's a 92 computer data bank center. And I asked him, well, what's it for? Well, they want every government agency to sign up for this computer data bank. Every government agency, and each state has a liaison with the state police force. What that data bank can pull up on you and everybody in here is your 10 nearest neighbors, your social security number, your spouse's social security number, your car tag, your VIN number, your IRS records, your customs records, your credit bureau history, and your criminal history if you have one. In other words, yeah, dog register, anything that's ever been registered, your property. In fact, one of the very first uses FinCEN was put to, you might remember when we were back at war with Iraq, was to identify Iraq assets in this country so they could be seized. Now, if they can do it to Iraq, they can do it to us. And they are doing it to us. Ask any farmer. Ask any farmer who's had the helicopters over his property what they do. If they find marijuana growing wild on that farmer's property, they take it. If they find wetlands on that property through a different procedure, they don't send the helicopters necessarily, but in some cases they do, they take it. They seize the property. It's happening all over the country. I just spoke to California, to a group this size. It was all farmers that have been dispossessed by these laws. This big a group. Yeah. A guy in the red shirt down in front.
Will this information be available in the current Davidian trial?
Oh, no. A question on the Davidian trial. Oh, what a joke. Sick joke.
Quiet.
Pardon?
No, I want to hear you.
Okay. The Davidian trial. We've got Judge Walter Smith, who is the judge out of Waco. He picked Magistrate Dennis Green. Anybody that doesn't know it, federal judges are picked by the committees of each state, Republican or Democrat, depending on what president is in power at the time. The committees of each state nominate people to these federal judgeships, and the governor picks who he thinks should get the job. And of course, he's going to pick somebody that's, contributed a lot of money over the years, or whoever has contributed a lot of money tells him to pick. Now, this is how the guys that are running this country have bought the country. They control appointments and they control elections with buying the vote, buying the appointment. Our federal judiciary is pretty much corrupt at this point. And I could tell you a lot of tales about the federal court system because that's where I primarily practice. But nonetheless, Walter Smith is one of these appointed judges. Now, once a judge gets appointed, he can pick a magistrate. Magistrates are not full-blown judges. They're kind of half judges. They can't hear some cases that judges can hear. They don't have the same powers as a judge, but they can sign search warrants. And in this case, Dennis Green has a record with Bill Johnstone, who is a U.S. attorney in Waco, of the highest gun prosecutions in several states, higher than Florida, higher than California. Now, this is a little bitty one-horse town kind of place. Waco is a small town with one main highway running through it, a lot of cows and pastures and dogs running around. And yet Dennis Green and Bill Johnstone have one of the highest rates for gun prosecutions in the country. Walter Smith, the judge that picked this Dennis Green, also picked the attorneys that are representing the Branch Davidians. Most of the attorneys are appointed. There is one attorney that's paid. There's another attorney that came in and volunteered, but I have since discovered that he has some very bad connections that make him very suspicious. Nonetheless, most of the judges were handpicked by Walter Smith. He moved the trial to San Antonio. The special prosecutor is from San Antonio. Makes it very convenient for the government. Their prime witness for the government, Jeff Jamar of the FBI, lives in San Antonio. If you'd like his address, I have it. Anyway, Judge Smith has done what he could to make it a logistical nightmare for the defendant's attorneys because they're going to have to commute back and forth from San Antonio. And if that wasn't enough, he cut their salaries in half of what they would ordinarily get as public defenders in a federal case. Ordinarily, at least in my area, it's $70 an hour. Now that sounds like a lot of money, except for two things. Now don't give me the boo hiss, I know attorneys are skunks for the most part, but the average trial takes a couple of weeks. During that entire 2 weeks, the attorney can't do hours a day, every day since March, and I still don't know enough to prosecute everybody involved. But I do know enough to defend a Branch Davidian. But we're talking about literally giving up all the rest of your practice and still having overhead of about $5,000 a month, which is what the average attorney office costs to keep open, just to keep the doors open. So this judge cut their salaries in half, moved the trial 2 hours away, and he's still going to be the judge. And once the trial started, he said he's going to pick all the jury himself. He's going to keep the jurors secret and anonymous. You can't even see their faces. He's put a gag order on the attorneys. He has said the U.S. government can call them a cult all throughout the trial. And he's picked 5 members of the press that are going to tell us what's going on. Now that's how the trial is going to go. If anybody's got any questions, in blue shirt.
I had a question for you. The first time you were talking with Mark Scott on his program, you had talked about the Wackenhut Services Incorporated.
Mm-hmm.
You were saying that they have the black uniforms and black
Wackenhut does have black helicopters. They guard Department of Energy in Nevada.
Right, and of course there's more proof of it here. I have an interesting piece of clothing I picked up at a local gun show a couple of weeks ago.
Throw it here. I want to get it on the camera.
Sure.
Oh, this is really too good. Here's a black police uniform. Down here, get the mic. Says Wackenhut Services on it. So we definitely have some proof here. I want to take this over to the camera, so wait just a second. I want them to get this patch.
Is there other name called Gestapo?
Oh, target practice. Thank you very much. I really appreciate that. I do. You don't know how much. That's going to be a real special patch.
Give us more information.
Okay, Wackenhut. Let me do Wackenhut real quickly. Wackenhut is supposedly a private security guard corporation. They have offices in all 50 states, and they also have offices just about any place you've ever heard of drug running in this world. That is pretty telling by itself. But nonetheless, when I researched Wackenhut, their board of directors is all ex-FBI, CIA, and NSA. Every one of them. Their third largest stockholder, for the truly well-informed out there who will appreciate this, is Rothschild Trust. And the rest of their stockholders reads like a who's who of the national bank and insurance industry. So, now that was the tip of the iceberg. We began to look a little further and found out that they have subsidiaries, lots of them. I think they're bigger than AT&T. They have robotics, they have satellite technology, they have cable vision, they own most of the private prisons in the country. Each of the cities that have gone to private security guards instead of paid police have gone to Wackenhut. They guard most of the huge places that would be just really perfect for detention centers, such as Market Square Arena in Indianapolis. And they guard Department of Energy in Nevada, where most of the U2 and U3 tests were done in absolute secret for years.
Ford Motor Company.
They guard General Electric, Ford Motor Company, at a lot of places. They guard all of the U.S. property around the world, and they apparently don't have to bid on the contract. Now, in September of '92, John Connolly in Spy Magazine did a very good article on Wackenhut guarding tractor-trailer shipments of drugs and pharmaceuticals to Iraq. This was actually bomb supplies. Reno, 2 days before the Branch Davidians were burned down, announced that she was not going to prosecute over that. But she did it in such a way that if you didn't know what she was talking about, she didn't name any names. She just said, we're not going to prosecute over the tractor-trailer shipments of pharmaceuticals and textiles and the forged certificate. Thank you very much. And she didn't name any names. And I just barely caught that because it was a tiny little paragraph across AP. Wackenhut was also involved in protecting various things dealing with gun and drug running out of Mena, Arkansas. They were also involved through the U.S. Attorney's Office and with the Department of Justice in the theft of a computer program in the early 80s called Promise. That's a very significant thing because I believe this program is what was eventually used to make the FinCEN computer network that we now have. That software, at the time it was made, was very innovative. It allowed the Justice Department's files to interact with police files, which had not been done yet. And the company that made it was called Inslaw. They sold this program to the Department of Justice for $10 million. And at the time, Meese was Attorney General, and his friend, Edwin Meese was Attorney General, and his friend Earl Bryan stole it, sold it all over the world, and then gave it to Wackenhut to modify the code. Now, what I've been able to learn, and this has been through interviews with some fairly scuzzy underworld type people, is that the modifications of the code were to make this software interactive with satellites. Think about the applications there. And shortly after that, I thought, well, that's pretty bizarre. Why would they want to have this program interactive with satellites with private industry? Shortly after that, our Congress passed what I call was the Wackenhut Benefit Bill, where they allowed private security companies to have access to CIA satellites. Surprise! So we now have Wackenhut with the capabilities of CIA being run by CIA, FBI, NSA, and the whole alphabet soup agencies. And they are basically untouchable. They've been caught in scam after scam. They've been caught in things that they've done. For instance, they were operating in Nevada. They were operating a little store. The government bought all the supplies. They sold it and kept the profits. This became known. Nothing happened to them. In the Alyeska oil scandal, anybody follow that? They've finally been made to answer for some of their wrongdoings, but they spent over $1 million to harass a whistleblower on a scandal in Alaska dealing with oil and environmental issues there. They did many of the same things that have been occurring to me, which I find very coincidental. And that fellow sued him, proved it, won, and just settled for $5 million. Yay, yay. So I would like help, if anybody has time. Please help me catch the people that follow me around, because I would like $5 million too. But they do employ private security guards all around the country, and I do believe that they are at least one of the sources for the black helicopters. I think they're more than one source of the black helicopters, because we do know that Wackenhut flies them for Department of Energy in Nevada. It looks like the ones that are used for harassment are usually flown by Wackenhut. That's a guess, though, but I'm guessing by the amateurish nature of the surveillance that I have experienced and the amateurish nature that the fellow in the Alyeska oil scandal experienced, and the direct connections here to the same kinds of people. We also know, though, that naval intelligence flies them. We know that the FBI hostage rescue team flies them, and Customs Department flies them. So there are truly multi-agencies flying these. And it's not just one group. So in that sense, they are multi-jurisdictional just by the fact that so many different agencies fly them and they use them all over the country. And they're never doing anything good. I have never, ever gotten a report of a black helicopter doing anything beneficial to society. Never once. Guy in the green jacket.
Yeah, you were saying that these tapes need to be handed out to everybody. Everybody that buys a tape needs to copy it and send it to their police.
That would be a very good idea.
Infiltrate them into. That's what they need to do.
We've had policemen stop by the office and pick them up. It's kind of hard to get them to watch it the first time, but after they do, believe it or not, your local police, most of your local police, not all, but most, these guys are your neighbors. They have to live in the same community you do. They've got kids in the same schools you do. Well, they might shoot you. Yes, it is unfortunate that the police have become a little worse lately. But a lot of them are not this way and don't want to be this way. We don't want the good ones to quit. We want the decent ones to realize what is going on and that this is not us versus them. We need insiders. We need people on the police departments. We need more of them on the police department that when they say go take their guns, go kick in these people's doors and take their guns, they will turn the guns on the person giving the orders. That's going to be the first way to stop it. Okay, I was just told that the City of Dearborn Heights Police will not cooperate with ATF, but by announcing this, they'll fire us. I've had a lot of protection from my local police after we showed them the tape, gave them the tape, talked to them about what was going on. I get 1 minute response time. And I think if you will show it, I mean, how many people could watch that tape and not at least go away wondering what on earth is wrong? Guy in the brown shirt.
They're recruiting right now amongst local, state, and county policing agencies for the multi-jurisdictional task force policing organization that Clinton's been talking about out loud, called the National Police Force.
They are
heavily
recruiting.
in all your major counties. They're doing it in Oakland County. One of the MJTF policemen that had been recruited in Oakland County was a friend of mine's shop. Did business with him up in Lapeer County. By the way, we counted 50 United Nations helicopters pass our house last summer in one day alone, up in the thumb.
Do we
You guys
have
don't
a
believe
question?
it. We got a picture of him.
I don't think we got a problem with people in here believing it. My guy with the red checkered shirt? No, standing up here in the front. Okay.
Everybody else in this country is trying to follow the law. Unfortunately, the law that is enforced upon us in this country has been perverted to the point where most of us have rejected it, morally and otherwise.
That's the truth. Some of the laws that have been, most of the laws have been
Government, the fear of government is part of all of us. We all have an unholy fear of the government and not enough.
Oh, wait, I don't have any fear of the government. I'm mad at the government.
All right, now, the point I'm trying to make is this. We're going to get this thing turned around. We have to do it through the courts. We've got to take over the courts in this country. We can't filthy judges and lawyers in this country and pervert the law.
Yeah. Do we have a FIJA organization here, good, strong, fully informed jury people? Where you could make a real difference is making people aware of what juries can do. We can take over the courts just by taking over the juries.
Yeah.
Every juror has the right.
We should have a citizens grand jury.
That's right.
Take these guys and put them away forever.
Do you know how we could convene? I would love to convene a grand jury and indict these guys. This is something I was talking about on radio the other night, and a fellow called in and told me, if there's anybody out here in the audience that knows how to do this, I do not know how to do this. I've tried to research it. I can't find it, but it sounds like a great idea. How do we elect a grand jury? one of the things I thought of doing was running ads in the paper in Washington, D.C. to tell the grand jury that you have the power to subpoena anything and anybody you want to kick the U.S. attorney out of the room, and to indict anyone they want to. They can subpoena any evidence and indict any person. So that means if the grand jury in Washington, D.C. were made aware of the power that they have, they can indict these people right now. We don't need to wait on Congress. But they won't do it because they don't know, for the most part, they don't know the power that they have. Guy back here in the suit?
Yes, on today's radio talk show program, you said there were...
Speak up.
On today's radio talk show program, you said there were 12 of Bill Clinton's bodyguards who were murdered. And I understand from Mark Scott, he said about 25 mysterious deaths around the presidency.
Okay, there have been 12 of President Clinton's bodyguards killed since January. 3 of them were killed in Mount Carmel. The 4 state troopers that came forward, I believe, came forward because they didn't want to die. I don't have proof of what these guys knew. 8 of them were killed in connection with Clinton's visit to the carrier Roosevelt. He only went to the USS Roosevelt once, and it was after it went out at sea. He didn't visit it when it was at the dock, which I thought was kind of significant. He waited until it was out in the middle of the ocean, goes and visits it, and he's going out there to see the new Atlantcom commander. Now, the previous Atlantcom commander had resigned. Stepped down, not resigned, but stepped down. The 3 guys that took him out there on the helicopter later died together in a helicopter crash about 2 months later, and the 5 guys that were his escorts on the ship were killed in a mini AWACS crash a couple of months later too. Now, what they were discussing there was the Bosnia-Serbia UN plan. But of course, I can't prove that that's why they were killed or that they heard anything. He could have had a girl out there too, according to these state troopers. I don't know. But what also happened, though, at the same time frame, that's the thing. Everybody gets all worked up about Clinton sleeping around, and they don't care about him murdering people and bringing the UN there. Woo! All right, what else happened? This is important information, so if you could wait just a second. The Major General, who is the Deputy Commanding General of V Corps, his intelligence officer, and 2 more crewmen were killed in a helicopter crash leaving a meeting in Stuttgart about the same thing. What I found, I then sort of veered off and did a helicopter crash search and learned that they're killing off, or at least these guys are dying. I shouldn't say killing off. Can't prove that. The heads of the National Guard and Reserves since November of '92. Now that's weird. It means, this all does fit together very nicely in terms of what's going on. Once Shalishkavili was appointed, his replacement was Southcom Commander. If you don't know who the Southcom Commander is, his name's not important, but you need to get a tape. If you can get this from Blockbuster Video. It's called Panama Deception. It shows what really happened in Panama. It's a news short. It's kind of a short film. And it shows that our troops went in there and ran over entire families in tanks. If you don't think our troops are going to do it to us, think again. Some of them will. A lot of them will. They ran over whole families in tanks in the streets. They used laser weapons on them that cut cars in half. They decimated this entire city. Now, we're not talking little thatched roof hut villages here. We're talking about a city that looks just like Detroit, looks just like Indianapolis, looks just like Los Angeles. An industrialized, civilized city. They bombed it 2 days before Christmas, killed thousands of civilians, and dug mass graves, just like Hitler, and threw all these people's bodies in these mass graves. Now, these were United States troops, commanded by the Southcom commander. The Pentagon had flown the press that they wanted down there, the chosen few, to report to us what was going on. Of course, we didn't hear about any of this here. We didn't hear about this at all. We didn't see it on the news. And it reads like a who's who of the press that was at Waco. Now, this is important because the Southcom commander is who Clinton put in charge of Europe to replace Shalishkavili. He has got Attila the Hun in charge of Europe, folks. Now, over here in the United States, he just created a new position that puts one general in charge of the combined Army, Navy, Air Force, and Marines. It was the guy he went to see on the carrier Roosevelt. It's an unheard of and an unprecedented position. Essentially, it usurps the power of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, and he only has one general to hassle with, not four.
What's his name?
Paul Miller.
First time caller here.
Blue lady. Blue.
First time caller here.
What? Oh, okay. Let me go to him, because he has been standing up a long time.
You know, I am a first-time visitor to this type of a group. Oh my gosh. I believe in the conspiracy.
Hold on to your socks.
Wait a minute, now I've heard, it's not. I've heard a number of people here talk about UN troops in this country, and I find that unbelievable.
Oh! Let me prove it to you. Do I find it unbelievable? No, I've seen them.
No, do you agree that there are UN troops here? How do you know for sure, and how many?
I've seen them.
Read the book, New Americans.
Okay. Wait. Hey, he can't be the only one. Every time there's one person with a question like that, hey, we don't need to preach to the choir. This man is the kind of person that needs to be reached. Because if he can be convinced, he convinced 10 more people, and we can help be better prepared. 1,000 what? Okay, let me just tell you this. First-person account I have personally seen. British troops, a brigade of British troops, not 30 to 100, but a brigade, which is a couple thousand guys, at Camp Atterbury in Indiana. We verified that personally. We have film footage of the troops training at Fort Chaffee, Arkansas. These were German troops interviewed by mainstream media. These German... I don't know about Montana. That's something Bo Wright's made up. Okay, I have verified first-hand accounts from people of troops in Montana. I have verified accounts of UN troops in Alaska, in Los Angeles. We have pictures, pardon? And also of troops in Texas. Now, we're not talking, this is one of the things, I guess I'm going to have to get to Bo Wright. One of the things that irritates me is he constantly says the best thing that could happen to us is if they'd attack us, then we know who the enemy is. Well, I already know who the enemy is. Thank you very much, Bo. And he says, we've always trained these guys. It's been like this for years. Well, I used to be assistant to the Commanding General of Allied Forces, Central Europe. I'm a vet. And that's another thing. When he said, he attacked me and said, oh yeah, he first said I had no military background, then he took it back and said, she's got high school ROTC. Now, think about it a minute. Why is he even attacking me at all? I didn't do anything to him. But in any event, yes, I am a veteran. I do have military background. I do know a rifle when I see one. I do know a UN troop when I see one. And I revised the NATO war plans manuals in Europe. Now,
So what do you know?
I know they got a fake set and a real set. Now, we have never trained brigades of troops in this country. Never. We trained 30 to 100 people. They would go to our military schools. When we were in Vietnam, we trained Vietnam soldiers here. We've always done that, yes we have, but we did not train brigades of people. It has become so blatant that in California people send me news clippings telling me about the training, that they tell about the training exercises in the clippings. These are mainstream papers out in California running the articles. We've gotten clippings from Louisiana, Fort Polk, Louisiana, where they brag about the UN training there and the joint training exercises. There was just a joint training exercise signed with the Soviet Union. A huge joint training exercise with the Soviet Union. Our president gave the part of the Presidio to Gorbachev. Do you guys know that Gorbachev lives in California part-time? And he is using this property as a training ground. All right, we found...
President on what units to deactivate, in fact.
That is fact. What we are finding, what we found initially was these little stickers. If you would like to get some real paranoia going, Drive down a country road, a state road, look on the back of stickers on the left-hand side of the road as you drive down the road.
Back to signs.
These are
Back of signs.
about on the back of road signs. We found these about 8 or 9 months ago in Indiana, and I know that Mark and Tim have gone out and researched it and found it other places. We've also found them in Texas. I had a report of them confirmed in Utah. So we have found them in Ohio and Wisconsin. If the state has been gridded out, they have gone to what's called global positioning satellite grids for states, and they redo the signs, bridge signs, road markers, mile markers, that kind of thing. And what global positioning satellite can do is instantaneously give you the longitude and latitude and elevation of any position. You can get a little handheld one, which, by the way, I recommend everybody get because you may need it soon. A little global positioning unit that'll tell you what you're from California, I'm sorry. It was Colorado. They followed the blue ones to a missile base. But these are clearly some sort of markers for troops, because what would be easier than to be able to point to a mile marker and say, I'm at 31 blue, or I'm at 27 red. And these markers mean something. We would like help in decoding them. If you find some and you can follow red ones to some location, let us know. I don't have time to do everything, but we have determined that the brown ones are where there's some sort of regional military headquarters.
How about UN in New Orleans?
There are UN troops in New Orleans. We have a very good contact down there. They have spotted white tanks there and an awful lot of troop movement there. There have been convoys of troops from St. Charles to Fort Polk.
As well as Russian helicopters.
I haven't seen the Russian helicopters.
According to Bill Cooper.
Oh, okay. Well, if Bill Cooper said it, I believe it. That's good enough for me. Okay, a lady in blue, she's been waiting a long time.
Get back to the wake home. Clarify when it was that David Koresh was first shot and the first child, when that incident occurred.
Okay. The lady's question was, when was David Koresh shot and when was the first child shot? There were children shot when the helicopters flew overhead before the ATF got there. Helicopters fired into the roof and killed a nursing mother and children in the upstairs bedroom at that time. Then when David Koresh went to the front door, there were shots fired. He was not wounded at that time. Perry Jones was wounded, and David Jones was wounded. Perry Jones was mortally wounded. He's the one that there was some, I think his reference been made in the newspaper, that was laying on the ground screaming inside the whole time they were having negotiations on the 911 tapes. There is a child, the child that you saw in the Forgive Us We Didn't Know tape. The reason that piece of footage is in there was to make the government wet their pants again. That's the idea. I put a lot of things in these tapes that don't mean anything to somebody that's not familiar with some of the more minute details of this, but the feds would be. And when they know that footage got out, because they confiscated it turns out, from the place that actually took the picture. I didn't take the picture, obviously. But it is out, we got it, and now it's going to be out a lot more places. A kid was killed out front, and that child was one of David Koresh's children. It's a little boy, not a little girl, but that's where the mistake came from. That when David Koresh said, "You came in here and you killed my children," he was telling the truth. And he said, "You killed my 2-year-old daughter." Well, the reason he had that wrong, or it may not be wrong, I don't know that they didn't kill his daughter too, but if he was referring to the child killed out front, it's because he was in back when he was shot. He did not know who was killed out front, and everybody who has seen that little boy's picture thought he was a little girl. So if ATF identified the child, or someone else that didn't know the child identified the child, said a little girl got killed out front, then David Koresh would assume that that was his child, his daughter. We have film footage of the ATF putting a small child in an ambulance that first day.
February
February 28th. That has never come out in the media. We found some footage of reporters down in Texas that were not on national media, but the reporters were saying, ATF continues to insist that small children were killed the first day. Now, we got David Koresh saying they were killed the first day, Wayne Martin saying children were killed the first day, and even the ATF saying children were killed the first day, but not our news media. And Department of Justice and the White House, of course, deny it. They blew it all off saying, oh, it's just David Koresh, he's crazy. So it has not hit the mainstream media, and I doubt it will, but it sounds to me like this was a very powerful reason for the rest of the cover-up. Back here.
Yes, in response to the retaking of our court system back, people need to understand that Magna Carta number 39 allowed for a coroner's inquest, which is a jury of common law peers anywhere in each state, sovereign state, republic in the Union. This allowed us, each district, to have our own common law juries. This has to be done because people have to be educated. The next aspect of it is where does government start on? It starts at the township level, then to the county. You can restore by petition for redress of grievances, which I am working on with some other individuals right now throughout the nation, that you can restore the constitutional republic, township by township, county by county, and then take the corporate body and shove it out the door, put it out in the Atlantic Ocean, give it a millstone and hang it down 6 miles. Take it back, and then we, the people, once again restore the government. For even the first declaration in the Bill of Rights in the state of Michigan says, all, A-L-L, political power is inherent. It's a birthright in the people, and government is implemented, secured for their protection, security, and benefit. Our benefit, and they work for us.
That's right, and they seem to have forgotten that, haven't they? We, the people, are the government. We don't have to take it back. We are the government.
Linda.
Now, yeah.
March 4th of this year, City of Trenton, I want to point out that the City of River Rouge was the first city in the history of this nation in 200 years of our Constitution to declare March 4th as Constitution Day. March 4th this year is going to be celebrated in the City of Trenton by having a gathering of, in a local facility. 375 tickets will be available. We'll be the first city in the history station actually celebrated, as Councilman Wayne Zyla will be bringing a resolution before the city council to make this happen. This is going to be the first city that's legally coming back and taking the city township concept that this man was speaking of.
Very good. Well, I'm happy to hear that because that's happening in other places. You may not be first. One of the things that we're working on, if we're not overrun by UN troops as quickly as Mark thinks, is buying 10,000 acres of land in Texas. In Texas, if 100 people occupy land for 6 months, then you become a city and a municipality. One of the recent laws that passed allows all police departments to buy their weaponry and equipment from the Department of Defense. Now, in case you weren't aware of that, so we decided we'd buy 10,000 acres of land in Texas and inhabit it with 100 people and become a city unto ourselves so that we could buy that nice stuff too. And then everyone in the occupying our city will, of course, be a policeman, a law enforcement agent, and have law enforcement powers. Now, once we get all the equipment and things that we need, another thing we're going to do is invite a gun manufacturing company to come there. And at the point in time that we do get someone to agree to be, I mean, there's plenty of gun makers out there, I know some, who could probably tool up their own gun making company. Now, once they ban all the guns in the United States, we're going to have just a heck of a market. But in any event, at that point, once we have commerce, once we have industry, once we have population, once we have equipment, we're going to declare ourselves a sovereign nation.
Are you taking takers?
Pardon me? Oh, sure, we'll take takers. I mean, anybody wants to come. But that is going to be a test. I actually expect that we will be attacked.
She said, are you dating taggers?
Are we what?
Are you Dagny Taggart, Atlas Shrugged, and Ray?
Oh.
Are you Dagny
Oh,
Taggart?
I didn't hear that part. But we decided that this would be a good test of peacefulness and sovereignty with a country restoring the Constitution. Now, of course, it's only 10,000 acres in the middle of the country. We're going to be attacked. It's obviously an exercise in showing that it can be done, that a group can form a city with constitutional guidelines, return to common law. And of course, the more successful it is, the more likely we are to be attacked. But I assume that this will be at least an example to other people, because as you're seeing tonight, if enough people come out, if enough people get behind an idea, if enough people want it to change, it's going to change. Guy in the gray shirt.
All right. First, can you document these 15 bodyguards?
Yeah, I have done that in an art. It's not 15 bodyguards, it's 12. But I have done that in an article called The Body Count, the Clinton Body Count, Coincidence or the Kiss of Death.
Okay.
That's the name of it.
Secondly, can you give us a listing of our state representatives and senators who are for the New World Order and those who oppose?
I think it'd be easier to try to find some that aren't part of the New World Order and just list them, because it wouldn't take up 2 lines. What?
It's very tough to find out who is and who isn't against it.
Okay, one of the things, this is why I urge you, get a computer, because you can do a lot of research with a computer quickly. CompuServe has got some databases, CompuServe is a computer network. You can call and research, for instance, in the Marquis Who's Who. You can pull up everybody that's listed in Who's Who that's a member of the Council on Foreign Relations, which I did. You can pull up every Rhodes Scholar. You can pull up every member of the Knights of Malta. This kind of thing. And if, cross-reference them yourself, and you'll get a real good picture. And after a point, you're going to quit doing it, because they're all one of those. Where is she? Okay. Public support for the Branch Davidians? Yeah, there is actually, one of the things I was talking, there's about 6 attorneys that we've been talking quietly about trying to do something to intervene. But the problem is, if we can't represent nearly all the Branch Davidians, it won't do any good, because 1 or 2 attorneys against 10 rigged attorneys are not going to do any good, because the defendants are all on trial together. I don't think they're as good as gone. They're just picking the jury right now. But a big part of it is America's got to realize there's a problem there before they're going to respond and help. Oh, absolutely. I mean, the one thing that stopped a lot of the investigation, I think, even if these attorneys, even if most of the attorneys working for Branch Davidians are honest, is money. It costs a ton of money to do a decent investigation. Set up a trust fund, the Branch Davidian Defense Trust Fund. All the money that goes into that fund would be used for defense costs. And there should be some sort of limit set on what the attorneys are paid, or they'll suck it down.
Should we go down there?
Yes, absolutely. I will be down in San Antonio next week. We need to keep a wave of protests going. We saw how successful that was with Rodney King. Even if we don't know who the jury is, they're going to see people out there protesting. There need to be huge crowds, and Southwest Airlines has a deal that 2 people fly for the price of 1. If you buy your ticket 7 days ahead of time, you can fly down there for about $300 round trip. Now that's 2 people. That's a darn good price. So get as many people as you can to go down there. And put, when you got your sign outside the courthouse, put where you're from. We're from Detroit. We're from Livonia. We're from Michigan. Whatever. So that the cameras, when they pan by, will have to pick that up, that there are people from all over America down there making a stink. Now, the last time we went down there, my husband right now is talking about occupying Mount Carmel. I'm trying to talk him out of it. But after, you've dealt with this and been so close to it for so long, it's very difficult not to be very emotionally charged about this thing. Organize. Take a ton of people down there. Don't show up with one little scraggly person and a sign. This whole room full of people could, if you can't go, pay for somebody else to go. And black shirt.
32 states have called for a constitutional convention.
Oh, boo hiss.
34 to throw out our old constitution and bring the new one in. Michigan is voting tomorrow in our legislature whether or not we're going to have that participation in the constitutional convention.
Well, then you ought to, everybody in this room ought to be on the phone in the morning to your legislators, calling them about this constitutional convention, saying, vote no.
They don't listen. You think our Bill of Rights are in jeopardy?
Our Bill of Rights is gone. They violated all 10 of the Bill of Rights in Waco in front of our eyes. They got away with it. Nobody's done anything to them yet. And we're all sitting here going, what do we do? What do we do? What do we do? You know what you need to do. What is it going to take to get you to do it? You've just been here with a room full, a sold-out room full of people. There were more wanting to get in. They all think just like you do. You've got plenty of people behind you. Before I started this, before I did the militia assembly, I had a lot of those 5,000 callers said, you know, I'd do something, but I don't want to stick my, I don't want to be first. And they used to say, I'm afraid they'll tap my phone, I'm afraid they'll follow me around. Well, people finally have quit saying that. They don't care anymore if their phone's tapped or they follow them around. They just curse into the phone at them and go on. But now they're saying things like, well, if somebody else would go first, I would. That's why I got out here, because they needed somebody to go first. And all those people made good on their word. They are going first. They're out doing the same thing I'm doing, trying to educate people and what's going on and what they can do. You know what you can do. You know what you've got to do. Historically, we don't have a choice. We don't have a choice unless we want to simply say, yes, we want a one-world government with a with a leader that's going to govern the world. We want our children to be brainwashed in school so that they can't think or reason well on their own, so that they'll be good little workers in the productive New World Order. Drones, absolutely, drones. And if you don't think your children, if any of your children are in public school right now in high school, you're not imagining it when you think they're a lot stupider than kids were your age. Because they are. Get them out of those schools.
First thing to do, locally, you know the neighborhood, and when you're talking to people that you trust, you learn where the signs are. You learn where all the markers are. You know your community, and in the event that we get into this kind of thing, you remove the pollution.
Why wait till we get into it? Remove them now. Remove those stickers off those signs now. Get that stuff out of here. Why wait? What are you waiting on? Do you need it to hit it through over the head? Are you too, if anybody is too scared of the law enforcement to go out and peel a sticker off a sign, go to bed. Pull the covers over your head. Yeah.
You mentioned the article about the body count that you had done.
Yeah. Yeah, it's, I've got an 800 number that we've set up to try to get this stuff out. Yes, I am charging for it, people. Our office overhead is being paid by the sales of these things. I quit practicing law last March. Other than suits I'm bringing against government people, myself. And the number is 1-800-749-9939. Most of the people in here probably will not be able to use that number because you don't use credit cards. So you will want to write to our address that's 3850 South Emerson Avenue. We welcome barter and silver, by the way. 3850 South Emerson Avenue, Suite E. Emerson is E-M-E-R-S-O-N. Suite E like Edward. Indianapolis, Indiana, 46203. Now both of the two tapes, there's a guy that's got a table out in the front that has both of the two tapes you saw tonight there. And each of the tapes is $20. I greatly appreciate it.
How much is the article for body count?
I don't know. know. Because it's mixed in with several, we've got a lot of other things that are with it, and I really don't know.
What are you charging for whatever the package is?
I don't know. If you call the number, they can tell you. Because I really don't have anything to do with that. I'm out doing this and getting information out. Are there any plans for a march on Washington April 19th? Not that I'm aware of, but it wouldn't be a bad idea. We need a decent TV network. We really do. All right. Looks like everybody's getting hot and tired. We need to wind it up here with this thought. Please get 2 years worth of food now. Make yourself mobile while you can still buy guns. Buy guns. Buy reloading equipment, powder, ammunition, medical supplies, gas masks. These things are readily available right now. They are still readily available, but they will not be soon. It is already getting difficult to get primers and black powder for reloading guns.
The next gun show is at the Gibraltar Trade Center, January 17th, 18th, and 19th.
Gibraltar Trade Center, January 17th, 18th. Gibraltar. Okay, Trade Center, 17th, 18th, and 19th. It will be a gun show. Blue shirt?
Linda, I defer to the gentleman in the blue shirt over here.
Beyond or besides Clase Comitatus, what methods do we still legally have to organize militias? I'd like you to touch back to the militias.
Okay, what methods do we have to legally organize militias? In the United States Code, and at the time the Constitution was written and the Bill of Rights were written, every able-bodied man between the ages of 17 and 45 was a member of the militia, required to own his own musket and powder and bullets, and things to carry him in. That law never changed. That law still exists. The only thing that changed was they put it in the U.S. Code, and they added another category called National Guard. Now, both categories still exist in that law. It's 10 U.S.C. Section 311. It says the organized militia of the United States is the National Guard, and anyone in the naval militia. Everybody else, all able-bodied men between the ages of 17 and 45, are members of the unorganized militia. Now, that is the law. Could be. At common law, the militia at common law, everyone was required to have a musket and powder and bullets. But at least there is the basis for your having a militia. If there is local law that says it's illegal to have armed bodies of men forming up together, or armed bodies at this point, I would say men and women, because we certainly have plenty of women who are good shots, and plenty of women who enjoy firearms. And I can't tell you that what could be a better protection against ordinary crime, ladies, than not a little can of mace that you got to dig for in your purse. I have never been successfully mugged. But in any event, these are things that we all need to be doing. Preparing, knowing what is going to happen. You know it, you've seen the signs, everyone in here is informed. Don't wait. Don't think, well, I'm crazy, maybe. This is just conspiracy stuff. Plan. Having this stuff isn't going to hurt you, and it may save your family and our country's liberty. Knowing how to use these firearms, I can't stress to you enough how important it is. You need to practice with your firearms. You need to clean them. You need to know how to use them. You need to work them, be able to work them comfortably, quickly, and safely. And you need to be able to work with other people. You can only do this if you prepare. It's not going to materialize overnight. It's not going to happen when they've got the tank at your front door and you're going, oh man, wish I'd bought that 50 caliber. It isn't going to happen then. You've got to prepare now. I think we need to cut it off. It's getting so hot and everybody's getting tired. Does anybody want me to answer any more questions? Okay. Guy down here in the dark shirt.
All the stickers on the back of the signs.
Signs. The back of the signs, the stickers. This guy's talking about those.
Brake cleaner with 1,1-trichloroethane, which has been banned. Still get it. Takes them off real well.
Brake cleaner with 1,1-trichloroethylene will take the stickers off the back of the signs real well. I personally have found that a Bic lighter does a pretty good job too. Here's a joke, okay? To give you an idea of, yes, you can get too paranoid, and yes, you can worry about things a little too much sometimes. We spend a lot of time doing nothing but intelligence work. I mean, trying to find out things that are going on. What are they doing to prepare? Now, I would like to, well, Ben's gone. I have a bodyguard, and we do a lot of traveling, and one of the things that we did one night down in Texas is we'd seen in Wisconsin and in Texas these little folded up signs. They were folded up, they're street signs, but they were folded in half with screws in them. And we said, now I admit to being paranoid, all right, I admit it, to a certain extent. But anyway, I said, oh, I bet these are New World Order signs. It goes with the little stickers on the back of the signs. These are signs they're waiting to drop down on us when they bring the troops in or something. We've got to find out what these signs say. Let's go cut one open. So we're down in Texas, and I just spoken to a group like this, and we didn't have a hacksaw. So we went to all of the department stores in Texas. This happened to be on a Sunday, so everything closed early. We went to about 3 places. Nobody had any hacksaws. And I don't carry one ordinarily. So we bought a Dremel tool that had a little cutting blade on it, but it was rechargeable. It was the only one they had. You had to charge it up. So we went to a restaurant, let this thing charge up while we ate. Now at this point, we've gone to a lot of trouble to cut the sign. We get out in this dark little road down near Mount Carmel, where there was a bunch of these signs. And we're sneaking around. We turn the car lights off. We get out, and I'm not going to tell you who did what, but somebody got one of the bolts loose on the sign, got another bolt loose on the sign, and it dropped down, and it said, "Watch for water on road." But at least we looked, okay? So you've got to do that. I mean, some of this stuff is not going to be anything. Some of the stuff is going to be watch for water on road. And that's a good idea, watch for water on road. But you're going to have to do some exploring. And I will tell you, I do understand the fear of the fellow, who said, well, let's, when they start coming, we take the signs down. No, we don't wait until they start coming. We do it now. But I do understand it. None of us are common criminals. None of us have been out there breaking into things or doing dangerous things or even marginally dangerous things. That was just a tiny little misdemeanor bit of vandalism there, but I felt very daring doing it. And most of the law-abiding people here will, as you go around doing some of these surveillance things, it can be great fun to go into a rail yard in the middle of the night and take pictures of drug smugglers. But that's what you're going to have to do, because that's who these guys are. They're drug smugglers. The guys that are running this country run guns and drugs. That's how they make their money. And you're going to need to get pictures of them to know who they are and to expose them. That's what we've been doing. That is what we're talking about here. Surveillance. Know your enemy. Know their locations. Know what they've got. Know what they're doing. And be prepared to expose them. Nothing more effective than a little blackmail occasionally, too. If you catch a customs agent taking a bribe, if you catch a customs agent smuggling things, don't necessarily need to turn him in. Save that little bit of intelligence information for some time when it might be real useful to you and your family trying to leave the country.
there some legal action that we can take in order to get the UN out of this country?
Is there some legal action that we can take to get the UN out of this country? Sure there is. You ever read the Declaration of Independence? That was legal. Filing a court pleading and a quarter will not get you a cup of coffee in this country in terms of getting anywhere. I have no faith in the legal system in terms of suing anyone or anybody over these things. I am willing to do it. I will do it wholeheartedly, but it will be like the exercise in writing to your congressman. We will go through those legal motions to prove to our satisfaction that we have exhausted every avenue. But that's already been proved time and time again in spades. Why do we need to do it again? Do we have to have, when is there going to be one more last disappointment until we're convinced that it is not going to work by petitioning the courts or our congressmen? It isn't working. Local legislatures are a different story. They might listen.
What if they don't need our tax dollars?
Well, that's a good idea. It's hard to run, but the thing is they print off their own money, remember? They don't need our tax dollars anyway. And they don't legally get them in the first place. Yeah.
Do you have any more pictures regarding the facility in Indianapolis?
Yeah, I've got a whole videotape of the thing in Indianapolis. I went out and filmed it myself, and I just never have edited out the parts where I filmed my leg and my elbow in my car. That's actually the holdup to getting it out. And now that we've done 2 tapes and I know how to do that, I can do that this week when we finish Waco 2.
Have you seen people at the facility?
Yeah, there's people that work there.
Okay.
It's not very many people. It's about 80 people a shift. That's a train repair facility. It was supposed to have closed 6 months ago, and they got some kind of an emergency grant to stay open. And they're still open. They supposedly did all this fencing and everything that they did to refurbish the place because they were cutting down on security guards. But now they've got armed security guards. So that doesn't make any sense either.
How about the turnstiles with the eyes?
The turnstiles have electronic sensors and eyes in them, yeah. Okay. And there's a big warehouse out in front. Mark's got pictures of them in his tape. Okay. And those are pictures we took, so I mean, they're authentic. Okay. Yeah, Mark, come up. This is the guy who got me started. I didn't believe him either.
I'd like to make an announcement here as far as the rest of our evening. First of all, I'd like to present this cap to Linda, since she already has the jacket. This is a cap. It flashes terribly. It's blue. But it says, New World Odor. It stinks. And they're available out in the lobby. I think Jim Petrangelo has some. And you'll get a couple bumper stickers that say, know your rights or lose them. That's our slogan.
We're getting some bumper stickers printed that say, if you obey the Constitution, we won't shoot you.
Okay, now I want to tell everybody that we've got to be out of here completely by 11. So about 20 minutes to, we're going to have to start breaking up here, and we'll hear from Mark, and then we'll hear from Bill McMaster for about 5 minutes. So right now we'll hear from Mark. If we fall, who will pick up the flag? I will! Stand if you will then. Stand!
the time we're done with this, we plan on going to Washington and do one of two things, either drive them into the ocean or hang them from the telephone poles, and I don't care which it is first. That's not pleasant, that's not the most desirable option, but right now I believe that our emperor, oh I'm sorry, he's got a presidential title but it's a regime, is garnering support from his New World Order clientele to bring military forces in greater strength into the United States. After all, we're all flying our flags at half-mast for his mother, but he's not here for the funeral, is he? So why are you worrying more about his mother than he is? That should tell you something about the urgency of our enemy and what his mission is right now. Now, a lot of what's happening, I hope everybody caught this, the mayor of Baltimore, Washington, D.C., along with the governor of Maryland, stood today in a public conference that was on the East Coast and announced that the MJTF, an entity which some people have said is non-existent, is to be implemented in Washington, D.C. and in Baltimore and Maryland proper. In addition to that, Pete Wilson made this comment, and you've heard this time and time and time again in the last several months. House-to-house search and seizure for the confiscation of all arms. Not in my house. Not in my house either. By the way, that's one thing.
Over their dead bodies.
Over their dead bodies and a lot more, yes. One of the things that I've noticed about this, they are being very overt, and I still have people telling me, well, that's not really what they mean. Excuse me. They are so arrogant and bold right now that they will tell you flat out what they are going to do on a daily basis. There should be no illusion in your mind as to what the objective of the New World Order is. I have said this, but I'll repeat it again. It is easier to cut the slats off underneath the United States than elevate the rest of the people to a higher standard of living and bring them to our level. For we are a very dangerous force. The American people, in the eyes of the New World Order, are a failed experiment that must be done away with. As far as they're concerned, if they can do it militarily, sociologically, in an educational form, if they can do it with the new national death sentence, national ID card, they will.
And with television, Mark.
Yes. Shut off your TV. If right now, I will say this uncategorically. Shut off your TV. If somebody asked me a question right now about what programming is on a channel and they said my life depended on it, I'd die 3 seconds later. That's what you're going to have to do, is cut yourself off from that umbilical because they're counting on it. Linda has said, that's right, Linda has said something that's very important here, and I've been saying this and a lot of people it hasn't sunk in. Meetings like this are happening all over the nation. Linda's been run ragged, I know she is. She's from one city to the other, to the other, to the other, to the other. She's doing TV and radio programs every day. We're in the same boat. We do not have enough time to do everything at once. But we're doing everything I can, she can, we can, to make sure that you people are one way or another informed. More people need to do what we're doing here. Somebody asked me the other day, why am I up here doing this in the first place? Aren't you scared? The only reason I'm here is to drive fear into the hearts of the enemy. You can only kill me once. And as we've already heard here, when I fall, if that happens, another man, another sovereign of this nation is going to stand up and replace me, and they can't stop us. If we have to take this country back 25 yards at a time, so be it. So be it. I don't plan on making my children slaves. And the filth that's out there that plans on attempting it, I'm going to run through with that virtually illegal bayonet on the end of my SKS if need be. Which brings me to a point, as we'll all digress a little bit here, something that was brought up about our militia. Why do you think they, of all the things not expected to find in a crime bill, why is it they put the bayonet into that category of weapons, items to identify an assault weapon? Well, it goes back to 7277, the original legislation to disarm and abolish the United States. And what it basically alludes to is the fact that they will disarm you as a militia. Therefore, if you do not have militia arms, you must all be terrorists and criminals. So even in one hand, as they're creating the laws to make you criminals from one direction, they're also applying them from the other. By having the bayonet and the militia arms, you are, under the Geneva and Hague treaties, a legitimate military force. They understand this also, and they always believe in the color of law. And when I say they, let's name them. The CFR, the Trilateral Commission, the Bilderbergers, the Internationalists. Name them, they name themselves. Watch 2 hours of C-SPAN. I was just informed of a program I had no idea exists. Tonight at 2 o'clock, turn on your CNN programs. And when you get to C-SPAN, you'll find they've got this neat little program with 3 little chairs and a big UN symbol behind it. Now, boys and girls, that is not fiction, that is not an illusion, that is the reality of, as Orwell said, the boot on the face of humanity forever. These people are internationalists. They have already sworn away their rights to our Constitution. It is their ambition, because misery loves company, and that's the only way to describe it. Their misery wants our company. They've sold their souls. They have no rights here. These people have come together to try and destroy your birthright and your children's birthright. Most people, that's been conditioned out of them in, unfortunately, schools like this. And that's the key. If you have a birthright, it cannot be taken away from you. That does not deride people who are naturalized citizens. I will tell you something right now that I've seen across the nation that is a sorry state of affairs. I trust many first-generation Americans more than I do people who have been born here, because they came from totalitarian regimes. They fought to get here. They will fight to stay here and keep their personal property. Now, when you watch the Davidian film about what happened not at the compound, but at that church and home, which is a key, I hope you all better remember something about how far you've all been pushed back into your lounge chairs already. It used to be a man's home is his what? Okay, and where did that property line start? At the front door or out at your property line where you paid for it? You've been pushed back to the doors of your homes already, and if they have their way, they will shove you right back into your lazy boy and make sure that even the inside of your house is theirs. They should never have been allowed past the line out there where their property starts. So they've already pushed us better than halfway, and that's the problem with all of this garbage we've seen so far. It's called compromise. Where your Constitution is concerned, where your Bill of Rights is concerned, there is no compromise. It's like... Anybody who wants to sell their own soul and ship their hind end overseas right now, because otherwise we're shipping your butt out when we win. Scary thought, isn't it? And it's going to happen because the quantity of force that I have seen on our side. I speak to the military, I speak to Army, Navy, Air Force, Marine, to Reserve, to Coast Guard, anybody you can imagine. As long as rigor mortis hasn't set in and you don't fall over, I'll talk to you. And for that reason, I also listen to people. And what Linda said is absolutely true. I have had this from soldiers, from NCOs. Some people who thought they were totally isolated. I went to San Diego, and still the best example, I had chief petty officers, I had flag officers, people standing there going, I thought I was alone. They looked next to them, and here's a man they work with every day at the same meeting. They didn't even know he was going to show up. He had no idea he was going to be there. This is happening all over the nation. What they ask is this: Mark, I can either stay in the military or I can leave now and take my men with me. What should I do? Well, I'll tell you what, stay close to that rifle rack of M16s and M60s. We're going to need all of those when we get our hands on them. Contrary to your aggressors' propaganda with the New World Order garbage, what you're seeing here is a situation where they don't know where we all are. And they will never find us all. And as many of them have said so far, Linda alluded to this also, when they give that order, as many of our men have already alluded to us, They stated, when given that order, they will turn and shoot the person who gives them that order, and then they will carry out their mission to protect and defend the Constitution and the Bill of Rights of the United States. And those who do not will be remembered. And they will be remembered forever, because if I win, and if you win, then I will make a point of ensuring that there's a new monument in Washington. And that new monument will have the names of those who were treasonous and who committed acts against the American people.
There's no
who allowed,
we will win.
Yes, we will win. There will be enough. The obelisk, yes. A stone, and it shall have the names of those who are treasonous, and it shall be laid in stone, so that unlike the American Revolution, for that is not what this is, I will remind you of this. We are the defenders. The usurpers are the internationalists. For the internationalists have come to me. I didn't have to go to war to them, did I? They're coming here, boys and girls. I don't have to ship my quote-unquote military strength halfway across the planet. They do. I don't have to strip their flag off a pole overseas. They're coming here and taking the American flag down and throwing the blue rag up. That's right. Forgive me, I am sorry. For normally I would bring one of the blue rags, and what I wanted to do was set a camera up over here by the back door, and I would ask that every one of you step on it while we film it, because that would be the tail end. That will be the tail end of the next videotape that we do whenever we do it again. Because that's the key here. You must understand, I agree with what every person who stood up here said, Linda has been concentrating on it tonight, is education. Not just a shooting war, because that's not the purpose behind this. This is not where I planned on being 10 and 15 years ago. However, none of you seem to want to stand up for your rights. You are now, but I'll tell you what, if we'd stomped on the little peons, the little conniving minds, the filth that's out there that was planning to create this, early on, it would not cost us what it's going to cost now. That's right. Your Constitution is your birthright. The chain of the Constitution is not upon the legs of the American people. It is on the legs of the monster that is called government, as George Washington said, never to be trusted, ever. And that's been the problem with our country. I have listened to foreign media. Do you want to know what the foreign media calls the American government? The paranoid American system of government. Why? Because we have what we call checks and balances. Trust no individual, no single person with total power, ever. Pharaohism, monarchism, socialism, communism, fascism, they're all the same. Tyranny. We fought a terrible war to free ourselves. Those beasts came back again 20 years later thinking that the generation that was replaced might not be as strong. We fought the War of 1812. They formulated wars in this nation in contention. And as she said earlier, don't look at the man across you they're trying to get you to fight. Look up 15 degrees and look to see where the puppet strings are. Who's trying to manipulate us right now?
Slick Willie.
Yes, he's one. Slick Willie is one. In fact, he's one of many, though. For remember this, I want to remind all of you. Yes. Well, let me put it this way. Thank you. Secret societies, some of which I personally believe you will never know. It's not the ones you're allowed, no, it's not the ones you're allowed to see. Let me say this before something happens to me I ever do get shot. It's not the ones that you're allowed to see, it's the ones that they have not allowed you to even imagine yet.
Federal government.
Federal government, centralized government. George Bush started what was called the MJTF police, which we've talked about. In addition, real American hero. In addition to that, FinCEN and the United Nations forces didn't come under this administration, they came under the last administration. It wasn't just created by Democrats, because this isn't an issue of Democrats and Republicans. That's an illusion. That is irrelevant. You must, that's right, look below the next tier and perhaps the tier beyond that. When I was an intelligence analyst, one thing I was taught that I want you all to understand, you put a big question mark with a circle in it when you look at an aggressor. You don't give him a name until you have enough specific data and intelligence collected that you can identify him. Even then, in order for you to give a good evaluation to the people that you work for, or the people that you're going to be giving this information to, you better make sure it's verified and accurate. If not, you put a question mark next to it. When I was in the system, that's exactly how I was taught to work. So I kind of came at this in a rather bass-ackwards way, as they say. I had no idea. If you tried to tell me this garbage 15 years ago, God help you, if your life depended on it, you'd starve. What happened is this. I came from the inside out. This force, this strength, whatever name you want to put on it, is this far away from taking your freedom. Its name is irrelevant. Its force is obvious. Ask your sons and daughters, your uncles and your aunts are in the military if they haven't seen some perspective of this right now. Have they? Yeah. How many have seen the black uniforms? Oh, ha, 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 those weren't going to take place. Why black? Black is the color of terror. The KGB, long before Hitler came to power, used black. The NSKBD was its standard color, this one right here. When Hitler came to power and faded in the ashes of Berlin in 1945, the KGB was still in place and is still in place today. None of them have been fired. A man who worked for the KGB in World War II, who worked up through the ranks, Mikhail Gorbachev, is now working in the Presidio in San Francisco, along with Alan Cranston, and they're coordinating the base closings inside the United States. And this is common knowledge because I've got an AP printout sitting at my desk at work right now. We capture all those we can, the stuff you don't see. And even of that, what you don't see, there's even more that's edited out before it gets to the AP. Why is this so? Because the last thing they want is for you to wake up from your fog. Let me give you a good example. How many people remember when I said American Peril? The way I could tell, and I could when we got into this last World War II and 3/4, a la Desert Dust, the most important issue in the media was what? Zsa Zsa Gabor slaps a cop for 3 days while Kuwait was invaded. Now let me point something out to you right now in present history. What is the single most important article in the news media right now, today, yesterday?
Nancy, the ice skater.
Before that? There we go. Anybody know about the word eat? I won't even say it. Okay, private parts. Yes, thank you. Sex is the key, it's a beautiful key diverter. Watch this hand, oh my goodness. Was the Bobbitt case a national news breaking event? When you see that, you'd better ask one question and one question only. What is it they are trying to draw you away from right now? And not even the sex scandal, quote unquote, the sex scandal. Everybody here who knows what's been going on with the Clintons knows this sex scandal garbage has been going on for the last 2 years. So why did it come out now? Plans within plans, circles within circles, tiers within tiers. Illusion is important with these people. If you're busy watching this, you're not busy watching this. And meanwhile, they're using it on your private parts. Do you understand what that means? The enemy is not even really our own government because you are the government. We must make that the key. The mistake that's been made is through the public school system. What they have intentionally done is subverted and twisted the whole concept of how we govern. Back in 1920, one of the leaders of this movement, Mr. Dewey, who brought us that decimal system, stated uncategorically that they were going to have to dumb down dramatically the American people. They have done a very fine job. Now you must make the effort to lift up and re-educate yourself. Understand government. Who has a copy of that pocket constitution, please? Thank you. Can someone bring it up here for me? Because I want to finish with this before too late. For all of you who would like to know the agenda of the New World Order and how, thank you, sir. I'll do that, please. For all of you who would like an agenda of how the New World Order is going to operate, I challenge that you only turn to one document to find a checklist. Yeah, there is one, by the way. It is a very simple one. Though, of course, a very grand one that is important to us as citizens. See if you recognize any of these. He has made judges dependent upon his will alone for the tenure of their office and the amount and payment of their salaries. He has created a multitude of new offices and sent hither swarms of officers to harass our people and eat out their substance. He has kept among us in times of peace standing armies without the consent of our legislatures. He is affected to render the military independent of and superior to the civil power. If you do not understand what the word national police force means, I suggest that you seek out people who lived in communist China, escaped from Russia or Nazi Germany. And then once you understand what the true definition of terror is, come back and tell me that you want a national police force. Our founding fathers were masters. I wish I had them for 2 days to stand right here. I don't think I could hold them back from Washington right now, but I wish I had them for 2 days. Jefferson said, keep your pistols cocked, locked, and your powder dry. And he had a reason for it. Because you do not trust government. He has combined with others to subject us to a jurisdiction foreign to our Constitution and unacknowledged by our laws, giving his assent to their acts of pretended legislation. The New World Order, total control at a very high price. Obey or die. Isn't that what Somalia found out the hard way? And even then, they decided as patriots of their own nation to resist. Weren't we all supposed to run off screaming, remember the Maine? Oops, I'm sorry. Remember Mogadishu? That was another one they fabricated before, too. Remember the Maine? Huh? That's right. While many actions in the past have taken place, ladies and gentlemen, we must focus now on today and then with our eyes to the future, accomplish the goals that are at hand, that are laid down for us. Arm, equip, prepare on your own. Remember, as I said many times in the past, you've got to be able to look at the man that is going to be standing with you into his eyes and know beyond a shadow of doubt that you can trust him with your life and with your family's life. When I have a person who supposedly purports to be with the government in a ski mask trying to tell me how he's going to run this system as a secret policeman, well, that's why I bought my rifles. And I've already passed them on to my children, which I'm sure will be a crime. Everything we've said here tonight will be a crime. Virtually everything. And that's because the New World Order is a government of terror. It is a government of fear. It is a government without foundation. It has no truth.
No honor.
And no honor.
No God.
The velvet glove on the iron fist is their motto, not ours. In the light of day, this nation shall prevail. In darkness, they prefer. We are going to have to bring this shining beacon, the Constitution of the United States and the Bill of Rights, back into its proper power. Period. One last thing. Let's see if you all remember it. God bless the Republic. Death to the New World Order. We shall prevail.
Yeah.